So you want to get into product management. You want to be able to work and define what is going to be the content for a new product or an existing product. You want to plan what are going to be those new nice features that are going to make lives of your users easier. And you want to be able to identify problems and actually find solutions of those problems for those users. And at the same time, bring them value, which is what is going to help grow your business or the company that you're working in. So today we are going to talk about some tips on how to get a product manager job. So I'm going to be talking about how to get a product manager or how to get into product management from my point of view, which is within tech companies and software companies. And we are going to talk about three main things here. First of all, what things can you do in your current role that can help you get closer to product management? Second, we're going to talk about how to help yourself training and learning about product management. And third, we are going to talk about which careers will make it easier for you to step into product management roles. So what are the things that you can do at this point that will help you get into product management or get to work closer to what a product manager is doing? So first of all, think about how can you get to work closer to those product managers? How can you get to communicate more with them to try to understand what they are trying to do? For example, if you're a software engineer, try to concentrate not only in delivering a feature, but also understanding why do you do a certain feature. What is the value that is bringing to your customers? And how can you, by understanding this, you will be then working closer to what a product manager has to do, which is trying to understand a problem and trying to bring a solution. Try to understand how this idea actually brings value to that end user. How is it affecting their lives? How is it making their lives easier? So try to always understand this, not just bring features or just do promotion materials without necessarily trying to understand the customer point of view. One of the main things that you have to do as a product manager is trying to actually get the point of view of the customer. So when you work closer to product managers, it should be easier for you to understand what they're trying to achieve. How can you actually work closer with product managers? Well, typically, most of the product managers are going to be very willing to sit down with people in other teams, because that's part of the job, to be as cross-functional as possible, to explain what they're trying to do. So it should be relatively straightforward to find the product managers within your company that you could sit down and try to understand how they work. Try to make your job more visible to the actual product managers, which actually should anyways benefit the way that the company works. Another thing that is very important for product managers, and if you are in your role, whichever it is, it's going to be very important for them, is data. How data tracking, data usage of the products, how users are using different features, which ones are the most valuable for them. So being able to show that data, being able to understand this data is going to put you much closer into the position that a product manager is. So whenever you are planning a work, when you're going to work in a certain feature, how could you see if this certain feature is very highly used by our customers? And if it has problems, obviously, that's going to have a very big impact on most of your customer base if you fix it. If you go and fix a feature that it might have a reasonable amount of problems, and you think that you would have to fix it, but actually when you look into the data, mostly nobody is using it, then this is important to understand, is that why it's not being used? Is it because of all the problems that it has, or is it because actually no, it does not have any value for the customers? So it's good to understand the data that you have available within the company and within your product, because this is something that product managers are going to also be needing themselves, and they might not be aware of it. If you made them aware, then that's a plus for you with bringing your value and your knowledge for the product manager. Another thing that's very important for product managers is that making a product ready for launch, it implies many things. It doesn't imply just promotion materials. It doesn't imply just a technical readiness, a new feature, a new release. It implies that everything that goes to that release has to be in place and aligned. So my promotion, my product, my learning materials, my documentation, all these things had to be in place before I actually go to market. And understanding this bringing or raising the potential issues of launching a feature without promotion is going to be very important to understand also from a product management point of view, and things that product managers are going to obviously appreciate if you raise towards them. So how do you actually, in a nutshell, can work with product managers? Well, you can just make yourself available, make your knowledge available about these potential issues, the data that you see that they might not have such a good visibility themselves. So being able to work with them, interact with them, try to understand better what they are doing, and try to bring value with your solutions, whichever they are, technical, promotion, bringing those to the table is going to actually pave your way in a way towards product management. Another way to get into product management is to join some kind of training for product management. There's plenty of ways of actually learn how others are working. So you can look for traditional formal trainings. Those can be very useful, especially if you get to sit down and they're very hands-on and you get to spend a couple of days working with somebody that knows what product management is and can help you, giving you the tools to be able to improve your work. But in product management, and probably any career nowadays, learning and continuous learning is going to be key all the time. So you will have to be able to find the resources for yourself on where you are going to be always learning. This can be podcasts, it can be blogs, it can be videos in YouTube, like yours truly. Also, it can be meetups. So if you are not familiar with meetups, please go to meetup.com, because meetups actually promote share knowledge, sharing within a community that likes the same things as you like. And this is not just about product management. It can be about software engineering, it can be about DevOps, it can be about cloud computing, or whatever you can imagine. So it is very interesting place to actually go and learn from others. Just go to these meetings. They can be presential meetings. Nowadays, probably they are more at this point, these online versions. Having this community to share knowledge, to get the contacts, to understand how others are working, it will help you greatly to understand and get into product management. There are product management meetups where you can actually get into and then see better how others are working, share knowledge and learn from them to see how you could move forward into this journey. And again, nobody is going to have all the answers that you need. So always try to be critical and get information from many sources where you can actually then understand, make your research and make your decisions of what is the most important for you as a potential product manager in the future. So previous experience is going to be key in order to get into product management. It depends a lot on the company, what kind of experience they are going to want from you to be into product management. Sometimes if you go into different websites to find jobs, you're going to see very repeated patterns of what are the different requirements that they will have for landing a product management position. And it's many times not as easy or as obvious as it will look like. For starters, most of the positions start asking for years of experience in product management, which means that it's difficult already to start that position. But if you think about the previous experience that actually help you to understand what are the skills that you are going to need as a product manager, there are certain positions, especially when you are going into in tech companies, that are going to help you learning those skills. So first of all, you can be somebody that has been doing some kind of customer support. Customer support is really beneficial because if you take it as I want to learn how a user actually uses the software and try to transfer that user knowledge into our company, then it puts you in a very great position of what is exactly what a product manager needs, because you should be able to understand what are the problems of the user. Just try not to be a customer support person that is only answering to tickets and never trying to understand what's the big picture of the problems or the ways that the users are trying to work. Another one that is going to potentially be a good starting point to be a product manager is actually be a product user. So you may be a customer from this company that is selling a certain product, so for example, photography. So if you have cameras, if you're a heavy user, if you are a Peter McKinnon, so then potentially working for some of these Canons or Panasonic or whichever company that is providing the cameras is actually going to be much more appealing for them to get somebody that's extremely good at using their products, understands all the in-depths of potentials of those products and understand how a normal user is going to use them, but also how an advanced user is going to use them and what are the typical problems that they're going to have and how they can find solutions for those problems. On the other hand, sometimes solutions that the users have are not necessarily the best solutions for the company. So even if you are a user, you have to understand that the company itself is a business and how can you help making an impact in that business. So that's not such an easy transition. As well, many companies, although they might be tech companies, they don't sell products to tech users. That transition from a non-tech user to an actual tech company, that can be quite difficult. Obviously, being a software engineer is also a great way of getting into product management. You are actually in contact with product managers or product owners all the time to describe what are the problems of the customers and how are the solutions. So you are in a way in a more tactical position of implementing those ones. You are the one that is executing those new ideas into the product. So being able to step up and actually take the big picture into account, it would put you much closer to what product managers are doing. On the potential not so easy transition from software engineering to product management is that as a software engineer, it's possible that you are looking to do solutions to any problem, and well, not all the problems are as important and not all the problems are so critical to solve for the company. So that is probably going to be the biggest step forward for you to try to understand how to prioritize, how to understand when an idea is important for us, when does it align with our vision, when does it align with what we want to achieve as a product or as a company. Project managers is another one that actually can transition into product management. Project managers are typically good at handling projects, at aligning different teams, at collaborating. So collaboration is where project managers should shine, and visibility on their work. So this is the part that is going to be also very important for product managers. The difference is going to be how to be able to define the actual content of the project. So how you can learn is being able to understand that when you're delivering a project, how are you actually benefiting your customers? Why are you doing this project? Try to get the high picture. Then it would take you much closer to what a product manager is doing. And finally, data scientists. If you are a data scientist, you are in a very good position because you are already seeing all this data that how potentially a product is being used, how it is affecting the finances of the company. You can find insights from the customer's point of view. So you are already having all the data that as a product manager you are going to need in your daily work. Then where you probably had to focus more is into how to get this data and these insights into actually bringing value to those customers. So how are you able to translate these insights into actual recommendations for a product manager, for example? This will put you very close to what product managers are doing. So if you see a little bit what I've been talking here is just trying to take all these positions and what are the things that would actually benefit for product manager. Product manager is typically more a generalist more than an actual specialist. So you want to be able to talk all these different things to a certain degree and be able to translate this into actual ideas or products that will solve real problems of real customers in real life by giving them value. Value for these users means that potentially they are going to be willing to pay for a solution which will translate into business growth for you. I'm not going to go now into what are the skills to get into product management or what you should know to be a product manager. I did a video recently about this, so I'll link it up here. So please go take a look if you want to see more about it. So today we have talked about some hints of how to get into product management. So as a quick summary, we have talked about or work closer to product management. This doesn't mean necessarily to work all the time with product managers, but also work closer to what a product manager would need. Second, remember, you have to train yourself. You have to always learn. You have to be able to find new sources of information. You have to be able to understand how others are doing the same kind of work. and in a very potentially different way from what you're doing. So learning, being able to build your own community, find those peers that you can share knowledge with is going to be key. Third, we talk about previous experience and how different career paths or different experiences can actually get you into product management. So, are you still thinking how to get a product manager job? As you see, it's maybe not so obvious, but it's not as hard as maybe it might sound. Remember to actually try to put yourself in the shoes of those users. How are you trying to solve their problems? So what do you think about these tips? Do you agree? Do you think that there's other better ways to get product manager job? If you have any thoughts, please comment below and let us know. And as always, see you in the next one. Stay safe.